playoff baseball in full swing. We were just talking the Detroit Tigers and their big win on the back of Tarek Skubal's beautiful
Oof.
pitching performance last night against the Cleveland Guardians, and where Detroit goes from here. Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. This is a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon. You can always reach out by shooting us a DM on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast. You can message us on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. If you are a member of our Patreon, well, number one, a big extra thank you to you. The channel could not run without your patronage, so we do appreciate it. You get that bump. The Patreon bump. You can message us any comment or question, and you automatically get in. We also comb through our YouTube comments. I know that we missed our Friday show. Well, Adam, we didn't really miss it. You did it.
I recorded it twice.
Yes, he went through the motions.
I went
Uh,
through the motions. The audio, I think, was the issue the first time, and then I got interrupted about 15 minutes into the second recording when my mother-in-law showed up. So,
and we're blaming this on the mother-in-law.
how could
So
she?
how could she do this to us? And you are devoted walk-off listeners are the one who take the hit here. So we do apologize for Friday, but we are going to take questions and comments from our mailbag and just interaction throughout the week. So that is what we've got. We're going to start with Twitter here. This is from Michael Sandavoy. He says, "Hi, gents. Thanks for a great season and providing great insights. Like many, I'm very disappointed the media didn't hold Mark and Ross more accountable in their press conference. The goal was always to win the division and go far in the playoffs, but Mark's assessments of Atkins was that the team was competitive 3 out of 4 years. Talk about moving goalposts, and that is something we'll dive into here, is goalpost moving. That wasn't dissected by the media. Also, 2 years of no cleanup hitter, something that Adam and I have fucking talked about nonstop for 2 years here. Or the albatross of the run prevention plan. No waves of talent either. Do you think these two are aware that they are so despised by the fan base? Or do they shield themselves with yes people in a golden tower echo chamber? I wouldn't be surprised of the latter. So, Michael, thank you for the kind words. Glad you're following along. And yeah, I think that was really where a lot of the anger from that press conference last week came from, is celebrating the wild card like it was the goal. So I am going to say, watching those wild card series, that was incredible. And what I would have
Hmm.
given to have the Toronto Blue Jays in that opportunity again. Listen, we can go back through the wild card history, and it is pretty apparent that if you get in, you have a shot. Listen, that was not the goal that Mark and Ross sold this fan base when they took over, right? They sold waves of talent, contention year after year, a very
Hmm.
Houston Astros type of sales job done. Look at what the Astros are. We can do this too. And they haven't won a division since these two have been in at the helm.
Hmm.
Yes, it is. And listen, I know there's going to be fans that are just going to fucking lose their mind when I say this. Listen, it's still very hard to win 91 games, to win 92 games. These are two feats this Toronto Blue Jays team has done under Ross and Mark. Even 89 last year. 89 wins. That's
Yeah.
not an easy feat in today's
No,
baseball.
certainly not.
And it definitely, as a fan, believe me, all I want is a World Series. And I think Adam and I have talked about this before, right? Like, Adam, who's your favorite Blue Jay player? And would you want to watch them lose just to have them?
When I when I want to watch the Blue Jays lose just to have my favorite.
Yes.
No.
No, of course not. Because you're a Blue
Oh,
Jays fan. You're not a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. fan. You're not a
yeah,
whatever fan. Listen, I love Vladdy. That was more of an example.
yeah. Do
But
you
when
know
it
how
comes
many?
down to
You know
it,
how many Gabriel Moreno games I've watched in the last 16 months?
and you championed him as a Blue
I
Jay.
championed him as a Blue Jay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like Gabriel who?
So yeah,
Yeah.
I get the frustration. Like what Michael is talking about, moving goalposts. It really is true because now these wild card, um, getting into the wild card has been framed as the goal all along, and we all know it isn't.
No, it's World Series or bust.
It's World Series or bust. Now I'm gonna enjoy the
You
baseball
can't have
season
a
either
you
way.
can't have a you can't have a payroll over 200 million and not be World Series or bust. You just can't. You know, you could be in the 116 range where you're like, okay, yeah, like we're rebuilding and like we're the Orioles and like we got this young core and like blah blah blah. Like we're just happy to be here and get a sniff of it and like maybe do some damage and scare some teams. Like, sure. But like, yeah, we're too far in to be playing that game.
Grounds crew, where are you at on the goalpost moving? Do you feel that this is an actual thing that is happening? I know this front office has taken a lot of heat over the last, few years, obviously, and it is frustrating to watch this Toronto Blue Jays team fail when they have been framed as a success. My question to you, Adam, is can this team okay, so let's take a step back because we were talking. I know I'm all over the place here. I'm trying to
Please.
organize my thoughts.
Hmm.
The New York Mets.
Hmm.
This is going to be a team that gets pointed to a lot. So is the Detroit Tigers. Over the next decade, these will be two teams that fan bases around baseball take hope from.
Uh-huh.
Because that's what we all want as baseball fans is just that glimmer of maybe we're still in it.
Hmm.
And one thing I will say about the New York Mets is this is a team where Steve Cohen in the front office literally held press conferences throughout the offseason last year to tell the fan base that they are not going to be a good team.
Yeah.
They turned out to be a very good team. Now, where this team is different from Blue Jays teams is that the Blue Jays teams were supposed to make the playoffs when they made the playoffs. They got 0 wins out of that playoff run.
Hmm.
The New York Mets have won more baseball games in the last week, playoff baseball games, than the Toronto Blue Jays have won in almost a decade.
Yeah.
It's tough to
Yeah.
swallow. I get the frustration. So with all the talk of 2025 being a competitive year, is the division the goal?
Is
Can
the
it even
division the goal?
can it even
Like
can it be?
like winning the division? Like winning the
Yeah.
AL East?
Yeah.
That's too lofty.
So going into 2025,
We're
the
not going to
reasonable
be.
expectation is a wild card spot, right? Like if they're actually going to compete, when they say compete, they are not talking AL East division winner.
I mean, we've got to aim for the AL East division and then fall short. You know, like that old like poster you'd see on the classroom wall in like grade two, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars, right? Like that's what we got to do here. We got to
Yeah.
go spend and trade and wheel and deal. Like we're gonna surpass the Yankees and the Orioles and win the AL East this year. Like we've got to aim for 105 wins, and then when positive regression doesn't swing all the way back and we only get 97 wins, then
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, well, at least we're in the playoffs.
At
Like,
least we'll deal with
yeah, then
this
you make the
disappointing
excuses of like,
97
well,
win season.
yeah, you go, who cares about winning the division? We want to win the World Series, you know? So, like, but I do not want to limp into the playoffs next year either as like an 88 win team that like snuck in because the other six bottom teams cannibalized each other, and it's like a seven-way tie for those last six spots, and 88's just enough.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about that. But unless we're healthy, unless we start slow, gross. I don't even like this. Anything about it.
Yeah.
Scott, check your phone. I texted you our thumbnail for today. Let me know if this is good or bad. I'll redo it if I have to.
Sassy. You folks are so lucky to have such a
All right.
thumbnail wizard like Adam Mack at the helm here with the walk
Pretty
on.
good
Oh,
photoshopping, hey?
no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're sticking with it. We're sticking with it.
All right. I might put that on a t-shirt.
Continuity is an iceberg. All right,
Uh,
moving on. This
all right.
is still Twitter. Greg Kennedy DM'd us. He says, "Boys, Dodgers just got body bagged. Love it, especially after the
Well,
fans were such assholes." We were actually talking about this before we hit record. Just that it's been really entertaining to watch both the Dodgers fans and the Padres fans put on their big boy diapers and have a shit off, right?
yeah.
Just a real wine fest. I mean, first of all, the Dodgers, obviously, the fan base there was shitty. Throwing stuff
Hmm.
at Profar, throwing stuff at Tatis. Dodgers fans, it happens. I mean, this is coming from a Blue Jays fan where we watched the Toronto fan base completely litter the field in
Hmm.
2015 after the umpire and the Texas Rangers got under everyone's skin. This is not synonymous with Dodgers fans, but it was shitty. Then to watch Dodgers fans completely lose their mind over Manny Machado skipping a ball towards, like, the way that Dave Roberts reacted, you think that he had literally like fired it at him out of a cannon.
Yeah, right. I know. It was like, I don't know, it's like the little league coach that yells balls in, warm-ups are over, and he just like hop it in there. Like
Yeah.
like you said, what is it, three hop on its way to the fence? I don't know.
Like he did put a little mustard on it, but I
Ah,
mean, come on. So obviously
yeah.
both fan bases calling each other the most disrespectful fan bases in baseball. This is why the Dodgers are the worst. This is why the Padres are the worst. They're ruining baseball. Uh, from an outsider's perspective, it's been almost as entertaining as the actual baseball games.
Yeah. I would be embarrassed if I was Dave Roberts complaining about it after the fact.
Yeah, pretty
I don't
wild.
know.
All right. We are now this is
By the
a
way,
page.
by the way, sorry, Dodgers.
Yeah,
Freddie Freeman's injured, bad ankle.
yeah.
Mookie Betts is like three for his last 30. It's just Shohei.
Shohei is showing up big time.
Shohei versus the Padres.
Yeah.
Is Shohei good enough to get past the Padres?
Yes.
You know,
I mean, there's another
Dave,
1-1 series. In fact, all these division series tied up at one right now.
I think Dave Roberts gets fired if the lose this series.
No.
No.
I mean, maybe it should be discussed, but no, I don't think
No,
so.
because
Continuity,
continuity
buddy,
is an
is an iceberg.
advantage for these Dodgers. Right.
All right, so this is also a Twitter DM, and it is from a Patreon member, so he gets the bump. This is from Johnny Eaton. Johnny sent his thoughts on how to make the off season work. I've totally convinced myself this is how you stop all the holes in the sinking ship and get going again. It would cost more than I've laid out. It will be expensive, but will likely keep them in the same luxury tax bracket. They don't need one big plug, they need several quality smaller ones, which is actually very true. Um, we're going to pull up what Johnny has done here, his work. So This was a thread of his on Twitter that he sent us. He goes, a thread about a very theoretical idea to inject the Blue Jays with some respected veteran presence quickly and make them competitive in 2025. But based on Sport Track market value projections, which are fallible. So, starting pitching, he has Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Bowden Francis,
Boo.
and Jose Quintana, current New York Met. Now, it is projected that he would be around 8.3 million for 2 years. You would need to give him a little bit of term there. Jose Quintana, do you want to pull up his age real quick for me and maybe his
35
numbers?
years old.
35. So he's a veteran. Not sure if this
3.75 ERA this year in 170 innings.
he could fit quite nicely into this starting rotation. It does put a little bit of take a little bit of pressure off of Yariel Rodriguez and does lengthen this starting pitching lineup. Um, some may argue that this is not the high-end pitching ad that you would want, but we are talking plugging numerous holes with smaller budgeted players because you're trying to spread this money around. So that's who Johnny has for the starting pitching staff. Please, grounds crew, drop your comments below. How would you see this starting staff going? Do you agree with Quintana? Um, do you agree? Do you think that they need to go aim higher and maybe a bat takes the hit to get a higher leverage pitcher? Because again, we are trying to fit square pegs into round holes here with this budget. Johnny then has the relief core. So this is the bullpen. He has Chad Green, Jordan Romano, Eric Swanson, Genesis Cabrera, Yariel Rodriguez. And then he has exterior options of Tommy Conley. Now he has him 5.3 million over 2. AJ Minter, current Brave. He has him 2 years, 2.7 mil. Blake Trainin, 1 year, 2.4 mil. Daniel Hudson or Chris Martin, 1.2 to 1.4 million. That's 1 year. So you're bringing in some veteran presence there, guys who have done it before, guys who you can probably pick up on a 1 year deal, 2 year deal for minimal. All of the guys mentioned have that track record you're after. Is it high enough? Is the question, right? Like, do you need a higher leverage dude than any of those four mentioned? It's possible. But you do need to understand that if you go out and get a guy for $10 million, that's all of a sudden one guy instead of three. So I get what Johnny's doing here.
Uh-huh.
It isn't the sexiest moves, but it is filling holes. Uh, Finally, going to the batting order, starting at catcher, he has Alejandro Kirk logging the majority of the time, and then Kyle Higashiaka, currently playing with the San Diego Padres in there. That he figures, this is all according to Sport Track. He figures he's valued at about 1.6 million for 1 year. He's got Paul Goldschmidt playing first base. That's 12.2 million times 1 year, hoping for a rebound year from a veteran first baseman, former MVP. Iglesias playing second base from the Mets, 1.7 million over 1 year. Again, and Johnny even stated it. Some of these are probably going to cost more than this. This is just what the value of Sport Track has them kind of pegged at.
Mm-hmm.
Playing shortstop, Bo Bichette. Playing third base, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, obviously, Vladdy at third is going to hurt the defensive end of things. Something to keep in mind. Playing left field, Anthony Santander. That's 17.7 million per year over 5. So, by the way, all of these numbers that I've been giving is per year, not total. So when I said like 5.3 million for Tommy Conley, that's per year times 2.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton Varsho in center field, obviously.
Hmm.
Right field, George Springer slash young guy. DH Springer slash rest day. And then utility, he has Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, sorry, or pick one more. So that's the bench. Total theoretical cost 53.1 million in 2025, keeping them in the same luxury tax bracket as 2024. Thoughts, Adam? You could tell he put some work in. He did the
No, I
research.
appreciate the effort and the
Yeah,
work, of course.
absolutely.
Grounds crew always putting in the work. I mean, this is not winning the AL East, but I know that's not what Johnny's going for.
No.
My biggest gripe with any of this is just like the George Springer's still on the team.
Yeah.
I honestly like George Springer as the DH. DH is being George Springer slash rest day. This is the biggest problem with this team's structure that it's been in the entire Ross Atkins Shapiro regime is
Yeah, and
they
you're nailing it
I
here because
I
it has
bought
been the
into
case
it
for
at
years.
first. I bought into it at first that like, okay, we're not going to have a DH. We're not going to have Frank Thomas. But instead, everyone gets a pseudo rest day, so everyone should be a little bit, healthier, a little bit fresher. So everybody else, like, everybody's numbers go up. We're not going to have one guy hitting 40 home runs, but we're going to have 40 extra home runs spread out amongst the other nine, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody's going to add 4 or 5 home runs to their season totals. And that hasn't been the case. And it's gross.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that the best spot for George? Like, I guess, other than like hitting coach. Can we just make him a hitting coach? That's clearly
Hmm.
not an important role. George Springer, baseball savant, 2017. This is the year the Astros won the World Series. He was World Series MVP that year. Average exit velocity. He was in the 77th percentile. Okay, great. He was in the great category for average exit velocity for his hitting. Okay, listen to these numbers year by year. Okay, so we went from 77th percentile. 2018 he was kind of injured, so his numbers are kind of off. But 2019 he was in the 66th or 63rd, sorry, so it came down. 2020 it went down to 47th percentile, so now below average. 2022 was in 43, then 29, and then this year he was in the 20th percentile. He's just
Yeah.
like old and not hitting well and trending in the worst possible way. Like his hard hit percentage, again, 2017, 87th percentile. I won't go through all the years, but this season, 34th percentile.
And
Like,
24 more months of this is hard to swallow.
right. So 2017, you're looking at his baseball savant, and it's like a lot of red on his page, which is
Hmm.
really what you want. Wasn't chasing, was making good hard hit contact, was barreling at a high rate, and now it's mostly blue, which is the poor side of the spectrum. He's still not chasing a lot of pitches. His
Hmm.
chase rate is in the 82nd percentile this season. Okay. He doesn't strike out a lot. He gets a lot of walks. That's not what you want out of your DH. You don't want
Hmm.
Frank Thomas going up there going, well, at least he's not going to chase, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just,
It's such an albatross right now.
it's just $50 more million on the books that, like, okay, well, we've paid it. Like, I get it. But we've got to get out from under it, or we've got to just Tanner Rourke his ass and just be like, hey, see ya. Like,
Look at what
it's,
Look at what eating that $34.5 million did to get out from Yuli Gurriel did for the Houston Astros. It turned their season around. I'm not saying that this is all on George Springer, and I absolutely am not saying that Yuli Gurriel didn't still have value. But when you're at that age and you're slumping to that level, it's just such an albatross to move around. And yes, Yuli has looked very, very good with the Kansas City Royals. I mean, he has more hits than 2024 sure to be MVP Aaron Judge, right? By a lot.
That'll never get old.
That'll
These
never get old.
comparisons.
That'll never get old. Yeah, so I agree with you, man. I think that getting out from under this Springer contract is going to be a really big hurdle that this team almost has to come and deal with this offseason, in my opinion.
Like I don't think we can compete for a playoff spot with George Springer on our team. Period. Like I just don't. Maybe best case scenario, he gets injured.
And that's the thing, right? Like if George Springer gets injured and now Nathan Lucas is playing 140 games and he is better and putting up better numbers, that says
Right.
something. Okay. And I
Yeah.
love what Lucas has done. I think that he deserves a shot at the big leagues. I think that he has done nothing but hit throughout his minor league career, but he's 30 years old. He's a utility outfielder, probably a
Yeah.
fourth in most organizations.
Yeah.
So if that's the guy who's going to put up better numbers than your $150 million man, I know, listen, I was right there with everyone else in 2021 saying, we got Springer. This is fucking amazing.
Yeah. I was too.
Didn't work
Basically,
out.
everybody but my dad was excited.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And this is one of those times. And now I think what would be best for this team is to get out from under it. I don't know how you go about doing it. You're going to need to get really creative. I know we talked last mailbag about maybe a Jordan Montgomery, that type of a deal where you're trading two deadweight contracts and hoping that one works out a little better for you. Um,
Would you, I mean, here's a creative solution. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but just for a mental exercise here. Would you go the other way instead of taking on a dead weight contract and going dead money for dead money, and then hoping like both teams in that situation are just hoping for like
lightning in
a
a bottle.
rebound,
Yeah.
right? Um, would you punt on Alek Manoah?
Interesting. So kind of package him with Springer.
Yeah, we just go, hey, like give us whatever bucket of balls in return, right? Give us your number 37 prospect. Like just give us a guy. Give us a warm body in return. You take on $50 million of George Springer.
So in this scenario, they are eating the entire amount.
They
Of
take
George
all the
Springer's
money.
contract.
Yeah, we don't pay a dime for George Springer. But the upside is even if George is dog shit, you have 3 more years of control of Alek Manoah. He's in arbitration. So, and his ARB is not going to be that good. Not for the first or like not unless he starts rebounding. So like you're going to get like a guy with sky high ceiling who is how many years old is he? 26, 27 next year. So you go like a guy that's on the right side of 30, 3 more years of control. Like
Done it before.
done it before. Like, yeah, you know he can pitch at the major league level. And then you're just like buying into the like, maybe a change of scenery would do this kid good. Or like the hubris of your pitching coach to be like, oh, I know how to fix him. You know, like what the Astros did with Yusei Kikuchi. They go, hey, we're just going to tell him to throw this pitch more. And that's going to be the key to unlocking Alek Manoah. And you go, okay, you can have this guy, but it's going to cost you $50 million in George Springer. And then, because I feel like we also can't bank on Alek Manoah to contribute to this team the same way like Nate Pearson was just kind of like, at a certain point, you go, we got to stop counting on this kid. Like maybe it happens, but that's all icing on the cake. That is not, we don't go into spring training anymore going, well, Alek Manoah, he's our 5. Maybe he has a great year, but he's our 5 for now, right? Like Tiedemann, same situation or whatever. And honesty, if that's the counter proposal, if we go to Houston and we say, hey, take George Springer back, pay all the money, and Alek Manoah for dirt cheap salary, and they go, no, we don't want Alek Manoah. We like what your idea is, but we want Tiedemann instead. I say, fuck yeah, here you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it would need to be a guy like Tiedemann. I
Sure,
there
like
might
that,
be there might be a team out there, Adam, where if you eat half the contract, they'll take Manoah and Springer.
sure, yeah. I don't think I'd want to do it unless they're taking all the money or like 70% of it. Like maybe we
Hmm.
pay 10 million bucks or something, but like
Yeah.
we got to really get out from under that contract in order to like totally give up on Manoah. Because like I still think that like
Yeah,
by
there
the end of
is.
his third year, like he could be a guy for us. I
Yeah.
think still, um, once the health comes back and the arm's healthy and whatever.
Yeah.
But but I am willing to say goodbye to Alek Manoah to get rid of George Springer because I don't think Manoah helps us in 2025, and I think not having Springer or Springer's money really does help us in 2025. I think, yeah, I've talked myself into this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. If you're just
Yeah.
asking me yes or no, yes, I do move Alek Manoah if it gets 100% of Springer's money off of the books. I would be shocked if there's an organization out there prepared to do that, but who knows? Starting pitching is at a premium, and maybe there is a team out there that already has their eye on Alek Manoah and is
I
like, we
I
know
will
what's wrong
say
with him.
this is how bad I want to get rid of Springer and how much of a dead weight anchor I think he is to this team. Sorry, love Uncrustables. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I stop at A&W from time to time. Although Whistle Dog's way overpriced. Hot take. Whistle Dog, $7 for a hot dog. No thanks.
Stop with
Um,
the hot takes, Adam.
we're gonna lose fans. I'd say okay, whatever. If Manoah and Springer doesn't get it done, you can have Addison Barger. You can have Spencer Horwitz. Like you can have
Sure.
one of our other guys who's like close to major league rate. Like whatever. Like take more than Manoah if that's what it costs. Or again, if you want Tiedemann instead or whoever. There
Yeah.
you want Aurelvis Martinez? He's all yours.
Hmm.
Aurelvis PED Santiago Special Diet Martinez. I'm
Hmm.
out on him.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I hope I eat my words on this. I hope Aurelvis gets his wife pregnant, can stop taking the sperm hormones, and can just hit clean. And maybe that's what's going to happen. But
Now I'm actually
I'm,
really curious where the grounds crew lies on this. How important do you folks think it is to get George Springer off the books in 2025? Like, honestly, are we overblowing a little bit the importance of getting that money off of the books so that they can invest it elsewhere? Like,
dude, just imagine this lineup from Johnny here. Kirk, Goldschmidt, Iglesias, Bichette, Guerrero, Santander, Varsho, uh, Clement is Lucas, whatever. But just take Springer out and you go, here's $30 million for a fucking home run hitting DH.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
go spend 25 million on a power hitting DH. Go get Salvador Perez,
yeah,
whatever, and like just
whatever.
I don't know. It's just
Hey, I'm
the
with you.
team's so much better. I would trade. Oh man, get out from under that. Spend the as long as we spend the money. And I have no reason to believe we won't spend the money because we've been spending the money.
Yes.
You just go, yeah. Would you trade Manoah and Addison Barger for the money to spend on a 35 home run DH? That's like sure, I would in a heartbeat. Yeah,
All
let us
right.
know. I don't know. Get
Let us
back to
know.
us.
No, I'm really curious where the majority of you land. All right. Going to Patreon. This is from Johnny. He says it's so much easier to say sell your best young player while he's at a peak value when it's not
Hmm.
your team. LOL.
So this is in
Pat,
response to MLB Mondays when we were talking about Scooble there with the Tigers.
do you move Dark
What do they
Scooble
do
in the
with him?
offseason was Adam's question. And I said, no, you sign him. You're the Detroit Tigers. You actually have
You have
some
a guy.
clout when it comes to finances.
Yeah,
Time to get back to where you were in 2017 and 2016 and spending
yeah.
money and invest in your young players. But Tarek Skubal's at an all-time peak, right, for his value. So I don't think that the Tigers should be looking to rebuild after
No,
the
I know,
run.
but I mean, here we are with Boba Fett going like, well,
Are we going to lose
he's
him
not
for nothing?
re-signing with us, and the trade value's fucking dog shit. And you go, well, Scooble is like one bad season followed by a season of bad tacos away from like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna let this guy walk in free agency and get compensatory picks back. I don't know.
Yeah,
Scuba had a hell of a game yesterday, so
didn't he? Wow.
that whole
So
game was
impressive.
awesome.
So impressive. Okay, sticking with Patreon, this is from Mish Beer. She's letting everyone know, and I was like, okay, well, we should spread the good word. She says audible.ca is offering a free trial, and there are 3 baseball books on offer. Baseball codes. The only rule is it has to work, and baseball. So there you go. Audible.ca
Get you through
offering.
the off season, some baseball content through the off season while
I was
we're
actually pumped. Are you a audio book guy, Adam?
oh,
Yeah, me too.
I read countless audibles. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
My
stop
only
reading
like
audibles.
my only catch is that I really only enjoy listening if it's the author narrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. One of my favorite audible audiobooks has been Jim Brewer's biography, done by, or I
Mm,
guess autobiography.
mhm.
And Jim Brewer, formerly of Saturday Night Live in the 90s, Goat Boy, for everyone who might forget. Or I think it was Goat Man, but he does all the voices. So like he literally he's such a great impressionist that
Uh-huh.
he's sitting there doing Jim Carrey and doing Tracy Morgan and Will Ferrell
Nice.
and Norm Macdonald, and
Nice.
it's like they're all there. Like
It's
it's
like the
really
cast
great.
is sitting there with him.
It's amazing to
That's great.
picture what's
Huh.
going on when he's doing all the voices. It's fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. We will go to YouTube before these last two here. I
Okay.
just want to get to one YouTube comment because we were talking about Vladdy and the generational comment that Ross Atkins made, which was
Hmm.
basically,
Is that a
sorry,
divisive
not
comment
Ross
or what,
Atkins,
eh?
Mark Shapiro, Mark Shapiro.
Yeah.
But Shapiro was straight up asked if he felt Vladdy was a generational player, and boy, did he tap dance around that question, basically saying he could be.
Yeah.
So this is from Jeffrey Langout. He says Vladdy is a generational Blue Jay at this point, but not for all of baseball. That's how I see it. He's on the same level as Carlos Delgado, which, I mean, borderline Hall of Famer. Carlos Delgado's
Well,
about
biggest Hall of Fame snub in
in baseball,
wait,
in my opinion. I mean, we
yeah,
are two Blue Jays fans, so we're
we're a little
incredibly
biased.
unbiased in this, but
Yeah.
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 And then he goes on to say he's on the same level as Carlos Delgado, but not the same level as Juan Soto, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Ronald Acuna Jr. And there's a little bit of truth in that, I think.
Uh-huh.
So far, Vladdy's 25, and I think I think there is another gear in there. I think we saw it this season. And you know what? If he goes out and puts up the numbers he put out in 2024 for the next 10 years, then he is generational. So
Do
I
you
do
think
get what Shapiro was saying, but definitely question why framing it that way in
do you
that
think
moment.
Shapiro and Atkins are going to go so hard after like this offseason of like we really do need to push to win the AL East and be like juggernaut contender front runners all season because we can't have Vladdy playing meaningless games and putting up inflated numbers again. Like we need Vladdy to choke because the games
And the
matter
only way
so
to
we
do
can
that
save money.
is to land Juan Soto. I'm
You
with
know
you,
what they
Adam.
say? You got to
I'm with
spend
you.
money to save money, right? That's how the expression goes.
Uh,
Uh,
all right, we'll wrap up on these. Adam and I actually got some pretty big news yesterday. We're not gonna get too into the weeds and the details, but some of you are aware that along with Joel LaFlamme. Hey, Kami, we've been writing a baseball series, and the good news is she's a go. It's been greenlit.
Greenlit
Uh,
picked up.
we're not going to get into the details of who and stuff, but it is far bigger than we had expected, and it's very exciting. We actually start writing this November. So
Hmm.
this is from Colin White. He says, because we announced this all on MLB Mondays. So Colin White says, "Congrats, fellas! Great news off the bat. Would love to see some Catan mixed into the show somehow." We were just talking about Davis Schneider and some of these interviews that we've done, and kind of circling back on some of these like inside baseball
How
stories.
these guys kill time in spring
Yeah,
training
exactly.
and all
As
that
we
stuff.
write.
So,
So,
yeah.
Joey Schatz. Love that handle. Patreon member. He goes, "Congrats on Around the Horn, guys. Big thumbs up. The notoriety can only help the podcast, in my opinion. Well, assuming you guys still want to create content when you become high rollers, I will say this: we're nerds. We definitely want to still talk the Blue
Yeah.
Jays
Then
on
we,
length.
then we just have to stop trying so hard to get another gambling sponsor to
That's
keep the
right.
show afloat.
Yeah, that's right. Now, literally, if you don't like us, well, fuck right off. We don't care. No.
Yeah. If I will say, if you are interested in the show or the goings-ons with that, and you haven't been followed because we've been promoting or doing the behind the scenes work for that on the Patreon for the last like 12 months.
Hmm.
And all those meetings that we've had are up on Patreon. So if it is something you're interested in, it's there on
Yeah.
Patreon. Our final draft of our pilot that's greenlit to be filmed in January is also available for the Patreon to read if you're interested in reading a script. But
Hmm.
there you go. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
So very exciting stuff. And obviously, as contracts are signed and all the details and the bows
More
come
stuff
on
will come
all of
out.
this, we
Mhm.
will be able to talk more about this publicly and just what we're doing and stuff like that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for all of your questions and comments. This has been Mailbag. We will be back on Friday for the Friday show. We're even going to record audio for it. Look at us go.
Hey, look at us go.
Yes.
Oh, I'll just say, this is a TV show that Joel has written that's also getting got picked
Yeah.
up and is getting filmed. So
It's
Triggered.
getting filmed
So
right now. It's in production,
keep an eye
actually.
out for Triggered and show Joel some love. So, okay.
And on that, I will end on how you can get a hold of us. If you're reaching out on Twitter, it's at Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast, and on YouTube, you can just drop your comments below. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.